Every kid growing up with video games probably had at least one racing game at home. For many it's either something super casual, like a Mario Kart or Need for Speed, or maybe something more grounded, like a Gran Turismo or Forza. Amongst these, Need for Speed Most Wanted is probably one of the more common childhood racing games, as it has sold over 16 million copies across all platforms. I am no exception here, as I fondly remember playing the game in my parents' bedroom on a PlayStation 2 Slim. The grungy atmosphere, the lightning-fast sense of speed, the adrenaline-inducing cop chases, the heavy soundtrack, all of it is ingrained into my brain as a core memory from my childhood. And over time, the game has sort of become a part of my life in a way, as I keep replaying it every few years and started watching other streamers and speedrunners play it. Heck, I even made a full conversion mod on the game, so it's safe to say that I definitely still enjoy Most Wanted to this day. And I'd imagine many of you who are subscribed to my racing game focused channel probably also look back fondly to the game due to truckloads of nostalgia for it. Now, meet my girlfriend, who has never played a single racing game in her life, outside of the occasional Mario Kart matches at parties. In fact, she hasn't even heard of Most Wanted before. The only Need for Speed title she did remember was Underground 2, because her sister used to play it when they were kids. For all intents and purposes, she's a complete beginner to the racing game genre, and I thought that this makes her a perfect candidate to test a theory of mine. You see, despite everyone's love for Most Wanted, I'm not sure if the game was actually as good as I remembered. Now hold on before you get your forks and torches out. Of course Most Wanted has to be good to some degree, otherwise it wouldn't have sold as well as it did. But what I wanted to know is how much of the game is still genuinely good and enjoyable, and how much of the bad I overlook with my rose-tinted glasses. This is where my girlfriend comes in. Since she has no prior experiences with the game, this puts her in the perfect position to really see if the game holds up as well as I'd like to believe. She has no expectations as far as the game goes, and would experience everything for the very first time, allowing her to form unbiased opinions while also making her first experiences with a racing game. I also wondered if her lack of prior experiences would make her play the game differently than most people. If she would struggle with things that seemed too easy to me, or maybe even do better than I expected. In general, I assumed she would perceive the game very differently, and that made me really excited once I got her to sit down to actually give the game a shot. Real quick for all the nerds watching, I made her play the PC version with a handful of vanilla-friendly mods that bring the game closer to the Xbox 360 version, along with some higher resolution textures. At its core, the gameplay is the same as it has always been. I just wanted the game to look as good as it could without ruining the intended atmosphere. Now without further ado, this is how my girlfriend became a street racing menace. But first...
Are you a depressed car guy without any friends? Don't have anyone to call when your engine is acting up? Do you wish you had someone to go on road trips with? Then meet your new GT Friend! GT Friend is your new tag-along buddy, ready to help with all your automotive needs. He'll lend you an ear and improve your life with his life-changing advice. Ask any question and he'll know exactly what to say.
What do you think?
Sorry, I wasn't listening. I was attending the 24 hours of not giving a championship.
Oh my god. You're so right. Thanks, GT Friend.
Engine problems? Don't waste money on a mechanic. GT Friend knows how to fix every problem.
Wow, it works. Thanks, GT Friend.
He'll even take care of your old oil. Just don't ask where it's going.
Oh, yes, the stuff.
You'll never have to feel lonely again when sharing a greasy McDonald's menu on the side of the road. GT Friend will never leave your side. GT Friend, part-time mechanic, all-time fantastic. Pre-order your GT Friend today.
GT Friend is not a licensed mechanic and won't be held liable for further damages to personal vehicles. Please seek a trained professional for reliable repair work.
Before I made her start the career mode, I explained the basic controls of the game to her, because the game does a surprisingly terrible job of explaining them to you. At least on the PC version, there are no tooltips for anything. This is definitely something more modern racing games do better to ease newcomers into the game, which already raised an eyebrow for her when I told her that the throttle and brakes are on the triggers. Now admittedly, this is something that I set up for her. In fact, on most versions of the game you do accelerate and brake using the face buttons, which is the basic control scheme she vaguely remembered. Outside of that, I decided to tell her nothing about the story, gameplay loop, or anything really. I wanted her to experience the game just like I did back in the day. Her only answer to my question of if she knew anything else about the game was that you need to drive fast. Which is certainly correct. But before she was put behind the wheel, we watched the intro cutscene of the game's very famous or infamous story, depending on who you ask. While I think the story does a pretty good job of easing you into the world, there seem to be a few things that make no sense for someone who isn't familiar with cars and street racing. In the beginning, you are set up against Razor in a pink slip race, meaning that the winner takes the loser's car. Which is the reason why Mia takes the papers of both cars from both Razor and the player, so she can keep them safe while the race is underway and the loser can't just drive off without holding up their end of the deal. My girlfriend didn't really get this, and I can't blame her for it either. She doesn't know the concept of a pink slip race, and the story just assumes you know what it is and how it's done. But going into the first race, there's a quick in-game cutscene that leads into it, and she found the cops crashing out really amusing for some reason. Maybe I should make her play Burnout someday. Subscribe if that's something you'd like to see. To say this is the first race is a bit of a half-truth though. The game does fade out pretty soon after you gain control, but it allowed her to get a first feeling of the car handling. And hey, she only managed to only scrape the wall once, so we're off to a good start. Our race gets interrupted by a flashback, where we can first get acquainted with one of our rivals, Corrupt Cop Cross and his partner. For some reason, my girlfriend thought Cross partner here looks like Mia from the intro. I'll let you be the judge if they look alike. And of course, one of the most painful scenes in the game follows, with Cross keying the side of the M3, which even made my girlfriend mad.
Junge, mein Auto!
Ruining the paint of someone's car must be a universal way to upset someone, and understandably so. Now moving on to the first real race. Did she just pull off a perfect start on her first attempt? Usually you need to keep the needle in a certain range on the RPM gauge, and if it's blue as the countdown reaches 0, you get a faster launch. I didn't explain this mechanic to her whatsoever, and it can be pretty tricky to get right, especially since every perfect start works a little differently depending on the car. So safe to say I was more than flabbergasted how she managed to pull it off. Maybe some of her prior Mario Kart experiences came in handy, and she pressed down the throttle at a certain time. Either way, I was genuinely impressed since I remember having a hard time getting these right as a kid. Nevertheless, this being the first proper race, there were bound to be some rather tricky corners, and this 90-degree left-hander here had her struggling somewhat. She did try to release the throttle at least, so the right intent was there, just the execution could use some more work. Though I think this early sharp corner here made her learn the wrong lesson. It basically taught her to slow down more for corners. So in the following ones, she would overcompensate a lot by letting go of the throttle when she could have easily taken these flat out. She's still trying to get a feeling of the handling model and how much speed you're able to carry through various corners, so this particular one feels a little rough given the context and might be a bit too challenging to navigate yet for beginners. What resulted was a pretty close head-to-head with Ronnie, one that she won by sheer chance as Ronnie inexplicably spun out near the end of the race. I can't say I've ever seen this happen, but at least it made my girlfriend win her first race on her first attempt. So, good on her. On this finishing screen here, she did notice that she won some money, and she asked if she gets to keep it. This is a pretty good question, honestly, and I think most people would either not know or not notice. But yeah, the money you have at the end to buy a car at the dealer is actually the sum of the money you made during the prologue. So I told her that she can invest the money later down the line, which she followed up by saying when she loses and has to get a new car. Did you know that foreshadowing is a literary device used to... After the race we get to watch another cutscene where Mia makes another appearance, where I pointed out to her that she really doesn't look like the cop from the beginning. After all, she even has a different hair color. But my girlfriend retaliated by saying she was too busy staring at her chest to notice. And I think I speak for everyone who's played this game when I say, ain't that the truth? After some back and forth, you're set up to run a race with Bull, and before things kick off, Razor slaps the roof of your car, which got my girlfriend mad again. Remind me to never touch my girlfriend's car, or I might wake up without my balls one day. Anyway, the second race is kicking off, and that's another perfect start. Okay, maybe I just suck at these then. The second race properly introduces the cops here, even if it's on a more basic level, with you technically being able to restart at any time. This is also when I pointed out the nitrous to her, which she hasn't used up to this point, and surprisingly she was somewhat underwhelmed by it, saying it didn't do much. Maybe it felt to her that way because the game already felt fast before, so a few extra kilometers per hour don't really move the needle much in terms of game feel. During the race she had a few collisions with Bull, which led her to ask if the car could break down from too much damage. Thankfully in Most Wanted you are practically invincible. The difficulty with the cops mainly comes in from not getting put to a stop. I always felt this was a much better approach compared to many other Need for Speed games where your cars do have a health bar. It encourages you to take risks, drive more recklessly and cause havoc, which is totally on brand for Most Wanted. One botched corner and an unlucky hit from behind made her spin out, after which she had some trouble getting the car pointed towards the right direction again. This is something I can't blame her for. As much as I enjoy Most Wanted's handling, at low speeds the cars do behave a little strange. This is something we'll see a little more of later. But at least she said she was really starting to enjoy the game now, even if she lost the race and had to redo it. It's interesting that this was the point that clicked for her, but at the same time, it makes perfect sense. At this point she had a rough grasp on the handling, she wasn't slowing down unnecessarily for every turn and as such had more speed overall. The introduction of the cops also amps things up in the race. And even if everything is still rather low-key, this race is where things start to really come together for the first time. On her second attempt, my girlfriend had an odd realization. On the minimap, she realized that she is the orange arrow and the opponent is the green one. This is also why she was confused she lost the previous race. And while it would be easy to dunk on her for this, I think she has a point. Sure, the orange arrow is the centered one, but if you only quickly glance at the minimap, which, let's be real, is exactly what you do when you're doing more than 200, green is a more noticeable color than orange. She said that she associates green with something positive, so maybe from her past experiences in other games, like how green is often used for health, she assumed that the green arrow belonged to her car, while orange is a more secondary color fitting for something not belonging to the player. And I'll be honest, if the colors were turned around, it would not only make way more sense, but also make the map more readable at a glance. Thankfully, she easily won the race on her second attempt, mainly due to her knowing where to go now, according to her. Her third race, she once again managed to kick things off with yet another perfect start, at which point I asked how she's pulling these off. It turns out she didn't actually know the needle needs to turn blue on the gauge. Instead, she quickly taps the throttle at the number 2, then holds it down at the number 1. Which is not at all how it works, but this strat seems to give her rather consistent perfect starts. I don't think this would work on every car, but you can definitely time holding down the throttle at the right moment. In fact, that's exactly how speedrunners get their perfect starts. Since they know exactly which cars to use and how they behave, they develop a feeling for when you need to hold down the throttle to achieve a perfect start, instead of trying to keep the needle in place. So in other words, my girlfriend is a natural speedrunner at this game and will surely get the world record in a few days. During the race she also used the nitrous a lot more often and as a result was way faster than during her previous races, easily winning on her first attempt without any major issues. And this is where we finally catch up with the present, this time doing the race against Razor for real. There's this one clip where you're brought into the race for a second during the cutscene. I never thought much of it, but my girlfriend asked if this was a hallucination. Probably. Maybe your main character is a diagnosed schizophrenic. Or perhaps the entire story is just one massive fever dream. Oh wait, that sounds like another racing game. Anyway, moving on to the last race of the prologue, since she already mentioned several times that she's really digging the game so far, I asked her what exactly it is she's enjoying. For her, she really likes the driving itself. Going fast and not hitting any walls felt pretty great according to her. Can't say I disagree. Most Wanted has a great sense of speed, and the grippy handling model with wide roads makes it fairly easy to stay on track. She also likes running over various objects on the road. Usually I don't even notice these, but it adds to the immersion of being an outlaw street racer. Well, until that one time she thought she ran over a dog. Yeah, right here. She thought that's a dog she just hit. I don't know, you tell me. Maybe she's the one hallucinating after all. After this pretty bad crash, she fell behind pretty far. Though it obviously doesn't matter anyway, since Razor tampered with the car. At a certain point in the race, your M3 breaks down and the race ends. And the timing of this was pretty hilarious here. Right when the engine was supposed to fail, she hit a wall, which made her believe she just broke the car.
Hä? Ich mein Auto gerade zu Schrott gefahren.
So I had to explain to her that this is scripted and she didn't do anything wrong. Moving on in the story, you get left in the dust with no car as the cops arrive to arrest you, but thankfully Mia is there to pick you up from the police station. For a moment, my girlfriend got excited to drive her car, and while this would have been really cool and is totally a missed opportunity from the developers, I had to disappoint her as Mia merely drops you off at the nearest car dealership. I'm not going to lie, this was the moment I was excited for the most. I really wanted to know which of the starter cars she would pick, and also what would make her pick one over the others. This would give me a first glimpse at her taste in cars. It's like watching her pick a starter Pokemon for the first time. And she will be judged just as much. Now for this I decided to not have a save file of Underground 2 installed, as it would make this choice far too easy with the extra cash you get from it to buy a Golf. I figured she would obviously just go for the faster car, but as it turned out, that wasn't her main criteria for choosing a car. In the end, she went with the, drumroll please, the Fiat Punto. Because it looks cute, according to her. Yeah, that's the main factor that played into her decision making. Whether the car looks cute or not. But to be honest, she's got a point. The Punto does look pretty cute, and after all, the starter car choice doesn't really matter all that much anyhow once you get to upgrading these cars. So, now we're off to meet Mia at the safe house, and right away my girlfriend hit the brakes at a crossing, asking me if she needs to stop at a red light.
Muss ich auf die Ampeln achten?
Nein, nein. Du spielst ein Street Racing Spiel, du musst nicht auf Ampeln achten.
Ja, was weiß ich?
After a brief introduction to the blacklist, we were faced with our first rival, Sonny. According to her, he looks like a character from the Yakuza series, and sure, I can see the resemblance. I then explained to her that she needed to meet certain criteria to challenge him, like winning a minimum number of races, racking up a bounty, and beating pursuit-related challenges. And as I expected, she was not able to hit a perfect start in the Punto this time, as the timing would be a little different. During the race, my girlfriend noted that the environment is actually really pretty, which did surprise me. After all, the map of Most Wanted was made specifically dirty and run down to facilitate the grungy atmosphere. But I suppose the forest area here is one of the prettier parts of the city. She replied that she just sees beauty in ugly things. So that's why she likes me then. Once the race ended, she was kind of left on the road with no pointers or menus telling her what to do next. The minimap is also completely empty, but by pure chance she managed to bring up the blacklist menu. I remember not knowing for a while that you could bring up this menu when I was a kid. Instead I would always go back to the safe house each time, so good on her for finding it. Next up she would attempt her first speed trap, the tutorial for which she just skipped. Truly an impatient gamer, she's just like me for real. The speed trap obviously wasn't big of a problem, but things would spice up a lot now with her starting her first real police pursuit. There's a bunch of stuff I noticed with how she engages with the cops here. Firstly, she was rather passive towards them. Although she did know that her car is indestructible, she played the pursuits very defensively, not trying to destroy any cops by ramming them or pushing them into walls. I think this is more than fair if you don't know you're even able to destroy cops through sheer force, but it would certainly make escaping a lot more difficult for her. But on the flip side, she did take note of the pursuit breaker markers on the map and correctly assumed she can use those to fight back against the cops. Though overall, she did seem visibly overwhelmed with trying to keep track of the map, keeping track of the milestones, trying not to hit traffic or other objects, and staying clear of the cops. And admittedly, if you've never played the game before, I can see why this would be a lot at once. Although the cops did appear in a prologue race, you could ignore them for the most part and mainly focus on the race. Perhaps a proper introduction to the pursuits during the prologue, without any milestones to worry about and with a faster car to boot, would have made the transition a little easier. Now one might say that this would be unnecessary. After all, the very first wave of cops in the game is hilariously easy to escape from. In general, Condition 1 cops have gotten this reputation that they are pretty brain dead. Their AI has issues following you even if you drive slowly, and they can wreck their own car by hitting traffic. And while that's certainly true for more experienced players who may need to babysit these cops, for a true beginner, it's actually not that easy. As I mentioned before, my girlfriend wasn't confident enough yet to try a more aggressive approach against the cops. And with the Punto being bone stock, it honestly looked like she was struggling a bit. She even got brake checked at one point, which I didn't even know Condition 1 cops can do. But at least she managed to hit 2 more pursuit milestones, which was all she needed to do. Assuming she probably missed this or forgot, I let her know about it, to which she asked if she can just give up now. Your pursuit milestones and accumulated bounty during a pursuit does not count if you get yourself busted, so I told her that she had to escape. Thankfully, she managed to lose the cops by driving around the campus, and during the cooldown phase she also noticed the small circles indicating hiding spots on the map. But given how quickly you escape this early into the game, she didn't need to get to one yet. When she went back to the blacklist menu, she was surprised that she got 2 milestones during the pursuit and both counted. I assume since she selected one of these, it led her to believe that she had to beat the particular challenge she selected. But you can thankfully knock most of these out in a single pursuit. During her second race, she managed to notice a billboard advertising Axe deodorant. And yeah, this was a weird thing back in the day, where developers would get funding for the game by displaying ads throughout the game world. Honestly speaking, I kind of miss this stuff, since it grounds the world more and makes it more believable. I wouldn't mind seeing this stuff more often again in modern racing games. Later on, a cop joined the race, much to the dismay of my girlfriend. Fair enough, she just spent 6 minutes struggling with a pursuit. But at least the race is going to end in a moment. After all, in the prologue you could just move on to the next race, even if the cops were still on your tail. So surely everything is going to be fine. Right?
Scheiße.
Dusty, komm jetzt weg.
Ja!
Oh no, you sweet summer child. One thing she didn't realize at the time was that she still had to start another pursuit anyways. While she did hit the required amount of pursuit milestones, her total bounty was still lacking. This time she managed to outrun the cops on the highway, and she even managed to hit a 4th milestone for evading the cops within 4 minutes. I'm glad she managed to hit this one more or less by accident, as milestones give you extra bounty that was probably necessary to hit the bounty target. Next up, she asked me how to get to the tuning shop, and I decided to warp her back to the safe house, as that way you can get there much faster, since it's right around the corner. Now the clever thing here would be to invest what little money she has made into performance parts, but it went to a new coat of paint instead. The Punto just had to be in her favorite color, after all. Which does remind me, it's pretty strange how in many Need for Speed games, you're not able to pick a manufacturer color for your car at the dealership. I suppose with all the customization it's not strictly necessary anyways, but it's a bit of a staple of racing games in general to choose a color when you select a car. I never consciously noticed that it's usually not a thing in Need for Speed, so this was a pretty interesting observation for me. Other than the paint, my girlfriend thankfully decided to at least throw in an engine upgrade, which does make a big difference. With it equipped, she tackled the last race to challenge Sonny, which was a lap knockout. These events are rather unique to the Need for Speed series, where the last place at the end of a lap is put out of the race. My girlfriend assumed the knockout part means your car will break down if you do, which is not entirely correct, but it's one way of looking at it. This upset her a bit, as it would mean she can't be second. And, well, you can't be second in this game. Like, ever. If you want to make progress, you need to win races in Most Wanted, which makes sense from a narrative standpoint, but can get a little tiresome after a while if you're only narrowly losing races. One of my own main complaints with the game is that it tends to drag on a little too much later in the game. And I think most of that comes down to how many races they expect you to win later on. Maybe they could have added a point-based system for the races, sort of how the bounty works. Let's call it reputation, where winning a race means you get more rep and can move on faster, but if you're not winning, you simply get less rep, which would be fine as long as you hit the target that's being asked of you. That way you could also do all the races from previous blacklist chapters you may have skipped, and they would still count towards your total reputation. But anyhow, let's get back to the race. During it, I asked her what she thought of the overall vibe of the game. This is easily one of the most fondly remembered aspects of the game. To this day, people are begging for a game in the same style as Most Wanted, with the soundtrack in particular being held in extremely high regard. I figured the music especially should be right up her alley. One of her favorite bands is My Chemical Romance, which... okay, that's more emo rock, but at least it's close. She thought the soundtrack was just okay. According to her, it definitely fits the vibe of the game, but it's probably not something she would listen to outside of the game. Fair enough, music is a really subjective topic, but it confirms my suspicion that the music of Most Wanted is perhaps a little overrated. I think it's great, don't get me wrong, but maybe the sky-high standard it's being held to these days is largely thanks to nostalgia. Which makes sense, the style of music in Most Wanted, namely the fusion of rap and metal, is pretty dated at this point and not something you'd see many people actively listen to today. So unless you grew up with this music while it was in its prime, there's a chance you probably won't think too much of it. But enough with the tangents. It's time for my girlfriend to challenge Sonny to a race. And this time she managed to pull off the perfect start properly, paying attention to the speedo and making sure the needle turns blue as the race starts. As she inspected Sonny's Golf in front of her, she asked me a weird question. What's that weird lamp on the roof? As if it were a taxi. I then had to explain to her what a roof scoop is. To which she said that it looks ugly and stupid. And you know what? For that opinion, you get the Based Award. Congratulations, you're now a true car guy, or gal. Due to an unfortunate accident in the second lap, she lost the race. But thankfully you get to try these races again however many times you need. For a moment she was worried when it started to rain, as she thought it would affect the handling of the car. But thankfully I could reassure her that the rain is just a visual effect that appears from time to time. But unfortunately her second attempt wasn't going much better, as she hit the same obstacle on the road again.
Nein! Scheiße! Ah!
And although she managed to catch up afterwards, an unfortunate slide at the end made her lose the race right in front of the finish line. Seeing how the gamer rage was starting to settle in, I offered to do the race for her if she doesn't want to do it again. I didn't get a reply. Instead, she got into the serious gamer pose and hit the restart button for one more try.
Let's go.
The celebrations were short-lived though, once she realized this was only the first race out of 2.
Ich muss nochmal fahren.
Es gibt 2 Rennen beim Busrennen.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer. Junge, als ob! Was? Okay. I'm locking in.
At least the second race was much shorter this time, and with a last-minute overtake, she managed to actually beat the race on her first attempt, beating Sonny for good.
First try.
First try!
First try!
Let's go!
Okay, das ist fun.
After you beat a blacklist member, you get to select 2 special markers, which give you special rewards. The big one here being the pink slip of the rival's car, which my girlfriend did manage to get, even if she thought his car was ugly. So this is where I decided to shake things up a bit. Instead of having her continue with the next blacklist member, I loaded a second save file I prepared for her. This save file would put her to the very end of the game, where we got to watch the final cutscene you get after beating Razor. It's revealed that Mia was an undercover cop all along, and she lets you get away with the car you drove in the beginning. What follows is arguably the most iconic part in the entire Need for Speed series.
Oh god.
Enjoy!
A pursuit you cannot shake against a new special police force you haven't seen up until this point in the game. I threw her straight into the cold water with this one, because I wanted to see how well she would fare with all this. And also because I don't expect her to play through at least another 20 hours. Well, I didn't know what I expected, but she didn't really stand a chance. I remember when I played the game for the first time, Condition 4 cops were already a massive challenge for me. So for her to jump straight to Condition 6 must feel like fighting a Dark Souls boss without any equipment or skills. At this point I did tell her about the speed breaker, since the game does a very poor job of explaining it. I told her she can mainly use this to break through roadblocks easier, as well as push other cars out of the way. But with how much was going on at any given moment, she didn't end up using it much. The most epic moment during her attempts had to be that one time she managed to take out a helicopter with a pursuit breaker, which then narrowly crashed down in front of her car. The next pursuit breaker she hit would end up ruining her attempt though, as the autopilot during the cutscene would stop the car in between the cops. I remember plenty of times where the autopilot would put me in disadvantageous positions, so I probably should have disabled these cutscenes beforehand. But hey, on the next attempt, she managed to take out Cross himself. Well, maybe it was the cop next to her who did it and she just got the credit for it, but I'll let her have this one. Though even this chase quickly ended as she had her first encounter with the spike strips. These end so many chases whenever I play the game, I'm not surprised she hit them as well. In hindsight, it's pretty brutal how these spikes immediately stop your car, and I'm glad they changed this in the sequel. And in the next attempt, she would once again drive over spike strips. But this was hardly her fault, as the physics decided to completely freak out. This is exactly what I meant earlier with the handling being somewhat unruly at lower speeds. As much praise as Most Wanted's handling and physics get, they are definitely not perfect, and this right here was the perfect example. So at this point, I decided to take the controller, as I still wanted her to see the end of the game. And also because I wanted to blow her mind with a little speedrun trick. Usually the way the final chase works is you have to wait 5 minutes for Mia to call you, who will then tell you about a construction site that just cleared recently where you can escape the city. Usually this construction site will remain there right up until Mia calls you, meaning you can't take the escape route until you've survived for 5 minutes. But there is a way to circumvent that using an out of bounds glitch. One that I almost messed up. Look, it's been a while since I pulled this off. But I still managed to get it done in the end, getting back into bounds on the road that's usually blocked off and taking the jump over the bridge, beating the game. Needless to say, my girlfriend was more than confused, but hey, at least she saw the ending. And that sums up everything that happened when I let my girlfriend play Need for Speed Most Wanted, her very first real experience with a racing game. Overall, I was quite surprised how well she was able to adapt to the game. Sure, a few crashes happened along the way, and she wasn't able to beat the final pursuit, but overall you can really tell how much confidence she gained over time, and how much faster she got all around. I'm also glad she enjoyed the game overall. I've been thinking for a while which racing game would be best for her to play first, and I think Most Wanted ended up being a good pick. Thanks to the easy to learn handling, It allowed her to pick up on it rather quickly and feel like she's doing a good job driving well. The story also gave her a hook to continue on with the game, besides simply beating a few races and challenges. Only the pursuits she felt a little overwhelmed by and thought might get annoying over time. And maybe there's some truth to that. And for me, it was pretty interesting to see her pick up on things I never even noticed. It helped me view the game under a new light I wasn't really able to see before. If you found this little experiment just as interesting as I did, consider leaving a like to let us know you want her to try another racing game again in the future. In fact, tell us in the comments which racing game you'd like her to play next. Keep in mind she's still a beginner, so let's maybe leave the hardcore simulators for later. Other than that, subscribe to make sure to not miss another video in this series, and thank you for watching.